Going for two live, it's your boy here, Dan at the B League Says, coming at you a little bit later on a Saturday afternoon, not normally in the morning, but we're here, we have the day off. Yes, I have the day off. My kids are elsewhere, and I am here ready to go and to celebrate such an occasion, because I don't remember the last time I had the chance to even sneeze in my life. I decided to go through every game prop and pick one prop from every game this week. How stupid am I? Fairly. Doesn't matter. We're going to look at every game and every prop that I like, or a prop from every game that there is this week. So we've got 13 bets to look at, and I don't know why, but it could actually make your gambling even worse, because now you've got more things to think about. Normally, I just give you a handful. Now we've got 13, and that's probably a problem. But hey, listen, what I like or don't like can also apply to different things, like your DFS, like your weekly waiver setup. It's all kind of pertinent, right? Like if I like this guy to go over this many yards, you're probably starting him. If I like this guy for this many tackles, hey, maybe he's going to get you some bonuses, maybe a sack here or there. It all kind of relates to each other. So we've got a lot of props to get through today. So 13 prop bets, one from each game. I don't know why, but hey, it's been a while since we've done something stupid. So let's get to it. As always, before we get started, Discord. It's one of the better Discords out there. It's absolutely free. It's Going for Two Live Discord. If you don't know where to find it, go find Jeff Lambert on Twitter or X or whatever the hell, and go find it. Get yourself a part of our community. It's a fantastic place to be. Or your start sit advice, waiver pickups, fab bids, dynasty trades, redraft trades, prop bet advice, Scott Fishbowl advice. It's all there for you through the season. And the off season, it's best ball trades, all that sort of stuff, draft picks, 101s, whatever the hell. It's all there for you to go to use. As always, Underdog Fantasy, promo code GF2 for 100% matching deposit up to $1,000 in bonus credits back. So if you put $1,000 in, you get $1,000 in bonus credits back. And that's where you want to be. Wow. 2.5 minutes have started. My show's normally 5 minutes, so we're 40% of the way through normally, but it's not a normal week, so who cares? Let's get started. These aren't in game order. There might be a Monday night game in the middle. I don't really know. It doesn't really matter. I just found it. Doesn't matter. So I went through all the props. Certain players I like, certain players I don't. This is what I've got going for you. So pick number one, and again, we're going to beat the dead horse here, which is the Cincinnati Bengals, because why wouldn't we? Oh, my God. Listen, we got Hunter Henry. We're going to pick him up first. We're going to look him at Cincinnati higher than half a touchdown, and he gets a 1.31% boost on that, or X boost on that, so he gets a little bit of a bonus touch on that. And I do like him for over 40.5 yards. It's kind of in his ballpark, so, it is what it is. Look, let's keep it simple. Cincy, as we hit on every week, are the absolute worst team at defending tight ends, and it's daylight second. They are atrocious. That's what they are. They're bad at tight ends. That's it. Everything else, they're not that bad at. They're still pretty bad, but this they excel at being terrible with. So, nearly 100 targets and 12 touchdowns have given up to the position, which is kind of mad. It makes sense, due to the turnover at linebacker as well. They've got a bit of a weakness at safety. Jordan Battle's all right. Dax Hill's okay. They're okay in that regard. They're fine. But those linebackers have been turning them over. There's no real edge presence there. So teams are able to get off a little bit better against them. And it is what it is. And look, Hunter Henry, he does what he does. He is what he is. He's good for 4 to 5 targets a game. He's good for anywhere between 30 to 40 yards. That's where he's at. However, here's the thing. And I do like this bet for him. I do like him higher than half a touchdown because, Bengals love it. He hasn't scored in his last 3, so I think that's why you're going to get the 1.31x boost on it. I like that for him this week. Hunter Henry over half a touchdown against the Bengals or at Cincinnati. And I do like that. And his 40 yards receiving yards is in play as well. Especially with Jamar Chaser, or not Jamar Chaser, it doesn't matter. High scoring game might bring him in a little bit more. I still think there's a lot of points in this game. Pick number 2, Rachaad White, lower than 30.5 rush yards at the Rams. Look, this poor guy, he can't take a trick, can he? Look, he's a solid running back. He does a really good job. Gets replaced by Bucky Irving. Okay, fine. Gets his job back because of injuries to Bucky Irving. And now he's lost to Sean Tucker. It's kind of what it is. It's 1A and 1B, but really 1A is the guy they're going to. It doesn't really matter. Look, Tucker proved worthy of more touches. He's had a few good weeks, a breakout week last week. White's touches and yards, they haven't really changed. He's good for like 7, 8, 9, 10 rush attempts. He's kind of in that ballpark. A handful of targets. He's fine. He's a serviceable player. That's what he is. But, I think that's why they've gone to Tucker and they've looked elsewhere continuously. I don't think he's anything else for them, I guess. But, we're looking at what we have here. The Rams, they kind of kill running backs for fun. That's just what they do. They kind of hammer running backs. They don't let anything go. They've given up the third fewest rushing yards this year, only 2 scores as well. They're very, very hard to pin back in their own half, let alone anything else. They are a little susceptible to running backs in the receiving game. So if you like some of his alternative props this week for Rachaad White, maybe he can get you there. Listen, he might be a flex play in that regard. Maybe. But in terms of anything else, I don't really like him that much. And the 30.5 rush yards at Los Angeles, I don't like it for him. But speaking of rushing yards props, here's a weird one for you. And I thought we'd get a little weird because, the Giants, they're terrible. We're going to wear them on the chest begrudgingly. Doesn't matter. Jameson Williams, we're going to go higher than half a rush yard against the Giants. How weird's that? Yeah, why not? Look, he's got 1.1x on this, so he's going to have a little bit of a 10% bonus hit on it. Yeah, okay, cool. It's a niche play, and if we're being honest, the Giants are absolutely god-awful, terrible. That's fine. I've known that since I moved to this goddamn country, that since they won the Super Bowl, the Giants would be shit. Here we are. And look, I can tell you now they've had troubles with a lot of parts of the game. You look at it, Debo's been out, Newton's been out. Who'd they lose? The linebackers, if they've had problems with linebackers, I think that with Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, what is he, the 4th linebacker up? He's on. They're struggling in the run game, and I understand that. And I know that Williams isn't a running back, but 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns to running backs this year. It tells me that the Giants can be had in the run game. Now, the Lions, they're a little bit in their own bag at the moment, aren't they? Like, if we're being honest, they don't. We could call it the Ben Johnson thing. We could call it an injury thing. Obviously, the Porter's out. He's done for the year. A little bit of issues on their O-line. They look a little bit sus. A little weird this year. They've been in their own bag, but look, obviously Campbell's been taking play calling. Laporta's done. They are starting to practice what they preach with Jameson Williams and keep his uptick in work moving in that positive direction. He's starting to get a lot more work. He's starting to look a little bit more flashy. He's only had 4 games this year with a rush attempt. Bordering around, 45%. He's getting a rush attempt. And they don't always go for a lot of yards. I need him to grab the ball once and fall forward. That's where we're at. It's a risky play, but I kind of like this one because I feel like the Giants can be had by something stupid like a trick play. It's on the cards, and I think we're here. Pick number 4, speaking about stupid Giants trick plays, Daniel Jones, lower than 1.5 passing touchdowns at Kansas. Does anyone not find it funny that since Halloween, Daniel Jones has stayed looking like the proverbial pumpkin? I don't know about you, but it does to me. I'm not bitter at all that we gave him a lot of money to be god-awful at all. Look, he's been fairly average for a few weeks now since the premature claims of MVP awards. Let's calm down. Or anyone says, it's a comeback over the year. No, he was just shit. It's not a comeback. It's, maybe getting towards parity, but not a comeback. Doesn't matter. Look, partly due to Jones's drop in form has been a lot of Jonathan Taylor going off, and rightly so. He's been fantastic. But Jones hasn't thrown multiple touchdowns in a game for the past 2 weeks. Now faces a team who's given up the fewest passing touchdowns in a league with a stingy 9. So, they're not really giving it up at all. But, all of a sudden, Jones is walking to Arrowhead and playing like prime Peyton Manning. I don't think so. Pick number 5. And this is normally where the show would end. But no, we're going to give you a whole lot more 13 picks today. Why not? Pick number 5, we're going to go into an IDP prop because IDP is fun. And if you're not in an IDP league, you are doing it wrong. I don't care what anyone says. You're playing an incomplete game without playing IDP. Pick number 5 is going to be Blake Cashman higher than 10.5 combined tackles at Green Bay because I like to chase high totals. Either way, look, I'll preface this and I say I'd feel a lot better if Josh Jacobs was playing. So we're going to keep that in mind. If he isn't, feel free to stay the hell away from this, but it doesn't matter in that regard. Look, the Packers are amongst teams who are not on the bye, who have given up the 3rd most tackles to linebackers, and Cashman has been going mental with, 15, 11, 14, 11 in his last 4. So he's been hitting that quota quite comfortably. They've been rotating in that second linebacker. They've had a few injuries. Metellus has been in and around. I don't think it's going to matter too much. I think it's going to be Cashman all day, and he's a good chance to get there. Now, pick number 6. I like this prop purely because outside of the weird week he had a couple of weeks ago, all the attention has been on Colson Loveland and Luther Burden over the past week. If you haven't heard the drum beats from the fantasy football echo chamber, it's Luther Burden. It's Colson Loveland. Okay, that's great. They're doing well. Fine. But Roma Duns is still there, and I'm going to get on Roma Duns' highest reception over 21.5 receiving yards versus Pittsburgh. They are at home against the Steelers. again, I touch on this every other week because it seems to come up for us. Steelers this year have given, they have been more elastic in their approach to wide receivers. They've given up the second most yards and most receptions to wide receiver position this year, which again I've mentioned before. They've had a few reshuffling issues with their DBs. Ramsey, they've had Elliott, they've added in Duggar, they've done this, they've done that. Porter's been in, Porter's been out. They've had a really weird year in their secondary, really un-Steeler-like, if you want to put it that way. But they can be had, and these games, their numbers are going up. That might be an Aaron Rodgers thing. We're not used to seeing the Steelers in high-scoring games because Rodgers has been carrying them really well, I think. He's had a couple of blip weeks, but that doesn't matter. Their secondary this year has been a little bit rougher than normal. They've been giving up these points. Look, Odunze's numbers have been erratic at best. Look, he's up, he's down, he's mid, he's electric, he's missing. It's a wide range of outcomes for him, which nobody wanted from in best ball, a fourth-round pick or a fifth-round pick, depending on what time of the year you were drafting. Was DJ Moore's going to get traded? They never trade these good players. It doesn't really happen. I know he got traded from Carolina, but they're garbage. They're the exception, not the rule. This isn't how it works. But amongst that odd form, the one thing that's staying relatively safe for Duns, which is really weird to say the word safe with long reception props, is that his long reception numbers have been solid. Since week 1, he's only had 2 games under 21, and one of those was 21. So if our line's 21 and a half, he's getting to 21 all but once since week 1. He's also had 2 receptions go over 35 and another 4 over 24. So, he's been going over in his last, 3 in his last 4, and the one game he didn't have a reception. He had 3 targets for nothing, right? So I like that for him this week. We've got a positive matchup against a team that does give wide receivers yards. We've got a player that does get those big yards. I like that for him. So that's pick 6. We're going pick number 7, which really should have been pick 6 because he's probably good for that too. Tyler Shough. We are going to go lower. He's against Atlanta. We're going to go lower than 7.5 rush yards, or his lowest rush, lower than 5.5. Look, make what you want of this prop. I'm sure there are people that are telling you he's this mobile quarterback that likes to. I've heard that. We've been through the draft process. Everyone kept saying he can move. He's mobile enough. No, he's not. He's about as mobile as Alex Smith post-injury. Like, he's not that mobile. He doesn't move that well. Okay, well, maybe mobile for a white guy, but that's it. 4 yards? That's not really it. Look, the highest he's rushed this year has been 12 yards, and that was when he was thrown into a game replacing, what was the kid's name? Doesn't even matter. I don't even remember the guy that he replaced. Spencer Rattler, that's the one, him. I'm having a mind blank. He hasn't done anything since then. Look, he's gone from -3 and 2 with an average of 2.5 attempts. So until he actually shows you during a game that he can actually rush and be mobile, he isn't. So they're giving you 7.5 for a guy that just isn't really going to do it. Pick number 8, talking about picking on quarterbacks, we're going to look at Tyrod Taylor. We're going to go lower than 18.5 completions at Baltimore. He's unlucky here, this poor guy. I love Tyrod Taylor. I think, talk about a guy that, I hate the word journeyman because I feel like he's better than that, but he's kind of been a journeyman, hasn't he? He's been unlucky because, I don't hate the matchup for him. The Ravens have given up the 10th most completions this year. Their team has also had some secondary issues. Let's face it, Lamar Jackson's been turning over the ball. He's been going 3 and out a fair bit more than normal this year. So, there's an opportunity for the Jets to get a decent piece of the ball here, even though they've traded off half their team. So, it's not like we're not going to see a fair amount of Tyrod Taylor. We're talking about the backup quarterback here, whose receivers were traded for over the past 3 weeks in John Mechie from Philly and Adonai Mitchell from the Colts. We're talking about no Garrett Wilson, he's on IR, and a rookie tight end who's the only receiver, he played with Hall before, but the only receiver who he's got any rapport with, who went 4 for 15 in their last matchup in Mason Taylor against Tampa this year, in Tyrod Taylor's only start. So I think it might be a bit of a reach to say, hey, this guy's going to go 18.5 on the road to Baltimore, who have won 4 or 5 in a row. I kind of don't think it's there for Tyrod Taylor this week. Pick number 9. Wow, we're up 9. We're going for 13. We're doing a pick number 9. Again, it's a high total, and again, I'd feel a bit better if Kenneth Walker was there, but Cedric Gray, we're going to go higher than 9.5 combined tackles versus Seattle. Again, chasing a high total. Again, it's going to keep the sphincter a little tighter than normal. But tomorrow, look, Gray is one of, 3 players this year to go over 100 combined tackles already this year. He gets a team middle of the pack to giving it up to the position. At the same time, I can see where the Seahawks somewhat take over, and they might overreact to last week. Sam Darnold's turnover fest. I can feel them leaning on the run game a little bit more to kind of protect him a little bit. I can also see turnovers from Ward, more possessions for the Seattle Seahawks. So I can see where Gray's on the field a little bit more often than not. Gray's hit this marker comfortably in 4 of his last 5 games. Pick number 10. I have no real feel on this one, but I feel like this, it kind of shocked me. And the only reason why I went through this is because I saw this team's defense and what they've been doing. And I kind of went, well, that doesn't feel normal. So we're going to go Bam Knight, lower than 40.5 rush yards versus Jacksonville. They are at home to the Jaguars. Weirdly enough, you don't traditionally go lower on anything in Jacksonville because, like, their games are just, they're all over the place, right? They're schizophrenic, the Jags. Like, in games, you think that they're heavy favorites, they bomb it. In games where they're underdogs, they kind of come from nowhere. For some reason, they're a weird team to watch, and yet their defense, their run D has been, quietly pretty amazing. However, this season, they've been anything but bad. They've given up the second fewest yards and attempts to the position, only allowing 3 rushing touchdowns as well. Knight's gone under 30 rush yards in 3 straight games and had 2 games with under 10 attempts. So I'm not sure this is the game where you're sitting there going, well, here's a game against a good rush defense where he's going to go over 40 yards, which he hasn't done in nearly a month, against a team who's got the second best rush defense in yards against this year. Oh, by the way, we're just going to push this guy forward. I don't think that's going to happen. Speaking of sacks, we're looking at Max Crosby higher. We're going to tease this one up to 1.5 sacks versus Cleveland. They're at home, and he gets 1.13x on that as well. This has absolutely everything to do with Shedeur Sanders, all right? Look, 5th-round rookie quarterback being played when his coach clearly doesn't give a shit about him. I think we can be honest about that. I hope Sanders has a good career. I hope he plays well, all that sort of stuff. I have nothing against the kid. Great. Nepotism, I don't care. He's there. It doesn't matter. Whatever. But, in his first start, he's on the road and he gets Max Crosby, who arguably on his day is the best edge rusher in the league. So, look, by Crosby standards, he's not had the best year. It's been a little bit inconsistent at best. The majority of his sacks, though, funnily enough, have come at home, where he's hit 4 of his last 3, and one of those included a double. So I like that for him in that regard. Sanders obviously came in last week for Dylan Gabriel. He got dropped twice in that period of time. Obviously, it's a tough game against Baltimore. It is what it is. He might be in a tough week for him against Max Crosby. Pick number 12. Here we go. Saquon Barkley, lower than 75.5 rush yards at Dallas. Yeah, we're all over the place. You can tell I'm starting to fizzle here when I started putting the show together. Not because he can't do 75.5. I'm not sure I have to tell you that. I'm not sure he'll have to, because this is a game where really, if Philly are anything but logical, and there's nothing logical about Philly. I don't care. You know how I feel about Philly at this point. You really got to throw at them. Even Geno Smith looked like a decent quarterback last week, and he's been anything other but garbage, right? So you can hammer the Cowboys through the air. Lane Johnson being out is huge, huge loss for the Eagles. And obviously Dallas's trades in the run game have actually maybe worked out better than anyone actually anticipated. Obviously Quinton Williams is a good thing. Rashawn Gary's a big thing as well. Overshawn back looks like a big, and obviously Logan Wilson. They've done really well to beef up with some solid players, and I know how good Micah Parsons was for the Cowboys. You don't have to tell me that. I understand. But if you're talking about a way to maybe slow the Eagles down in the rush game against Hurts and Barkley, this isn't a bad way to go about it either. So I don't mind that. Barkley, look, he's gone over this marker in 2 of his last 3, okay? But he's only hit, if you want to zoom out a little bit, 2 in his last 5. He hasn't really been that consistent with this marker. I can see Barkley being used in the receiving game a little bit more if you want to be that way. And with Lane Johnson out, that might make a little bit more sense. Dallas has given up the 2nd most receiving yards to running backs this year, but a middle of the pack against running backs in rush yards. So I know it's Dallas's weakness and is their secondary. So, through the air, that's how you'll beat them. And I hope they both beat each other. I don't really care. But pick number 13, we're going to go with another revenge game if Tyler Taylor wasn't one. We are going to look at, oh my God, 18, 19 minutes. This is mad. This is well beyond my means. This is unbelievable. But pick number 13, Christian McCaffrey. We're going to go higher than 1.5 rushing and receiving touchdowns versus Carolina. They're at home Monday Night Football. We're going to get that at 1.16x. Look, the Panthers, for all intents, they're a little bit like Dallas. They're okay versus running backs, averaging about 100 yards a game, have done so, and they're going at about 1 total touchdown to running backs, whether it's rushing and receiving per game. So played 11 games, they've given up 11 touchdowns total to the running back position across the board. So that's not bad in that regard. So keep that in mind. However, McCaffrey looks to be back. Revenge game at home against his former employer. He hit a triple last week, 2-1. I like that for him. I saw a double a few weeks before that. He's a real good shot at this. And, duplicate scores against them, I think that's on the cards. San Fran trying to write the season off, especially with everything with Brandon Ayuk happening. They might want to quieten everyone and go back to their best player, which is still arguably McCaffrey. Panthers are without Roseboom and Wallace, so they're onto their third, fourth, fifth linebackers. I think Chris Barnes is playing. Cherilus might be playing. I don't know. It's out there. There could be chaos for them in that aspect. So his longest rush yards prop of 15.5, I think I like that one as well. I like that very, very much at 15.5 for him as well. 20 minutes, we are cruising through. We've done 13 props. Before I get going, I am going to wrap this up by saying, as always, Underdog Fantasy promo code GF2 for 100% matching deposit up to $1,000 in bonus credits. Throw $1,000 in, $1,000 bonus for credits. Hand in hand washes the other. It's a fantastic prop bet promo for you. If you haven't done so already, as always, head over to the Going for Two Discord. It's free. Who hates free? Come on, this is mad, right? You can find out when your favorite shows are on. Get your favorite articles if we do them anymore, Jeff. I haven't seen an article. Doesn't matter. We're not going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about all your waiver advice, fab advice, trade advice, waiver advice, pickup advice, pick and prop advice, best ball advice. Any advice you can find in terms of fantasy sports, it is there. It's a great place. It's a fantastic hub to be. Going for Two Live Discord. If you don't know where to find it on Discord, find Jeff Lambert. He will help you out. Before I go, Dan at the B League says somewhere. I'm sometimes on Twitter. I'm hating the Socceroos at the moment. We got pumped by Colombia. Mind my tweets on that. Doesn't matter. We're going to talk about these prop bets to wrap up one last time. Let's get going. Pick number one in a 13 prop bet show. Why? I don't know. I had the time. I should have stopped drinking yesterday. Pick number one, Hunter Henry at Cincinnati, higher than half a touchdown with a 1.31 boost. And I like him for over 40.5 receiving yards as well. Pick number two, Rachaad White, lower than 30.5 rush yards at the Rams this week. Pick number three, Jameson Williams for a funny one, higher than half a rush yard versus the Giants at 1.1x as well. Pick number four, Daniel Jones, lower than 1.5 passing touchdowns at Kansas. I don't know why you would. Pick number five, Blake Cashman, higher than 10.5 combined tackles at Green Bay. I like that with Josh Jacobs playing, not so much without him. Feel free to fade if you like. Pick number six, Rome Odunze, highest reception, over 21.5 receiving yards versus Pittsburgh, not at receiving yards. Highest reception yards of 21.5. He's going over on that. I'm sure he'll have higher than 21.5 yards on the day. Pick number six, Tyler Shuck, lower than 7.5 rush yards, or lowest rush, lower than 5.5 yards. Pick number eight, Tyrod Taylor, lower than 18.5 completions at Baltimore. Pick number nine, Cedric Gray, higher than 9.5 combined tackles versus Seattle. I like that more with Ken Walker playing. If not, feel free to fade. Pick 10, Bam Knight, lower than 40.5 rush yards versus Jacksonville. Pick number 11, Max Crosby. We like him for higher than 1.5 sacks versus Cleveland at 1.13x, a bit of extra juice on that. Pick number 12, Saquon Barkley, lower than 75.5 rush yards at Dallas. And finally, pick number 13, Christian McCaffrey, higher than 1.5 rush receiving touchdowns versus Carolina at 1.16x. We've got a few weird bets. We've teased a few of them out. We've come back from a few others. I don't hate it so much. But until next week, I'm Dan at the B League says, safe bets, happy punts, cheers, and goodbye.